In a world where everyone is shouting, the real power belongs to those who stay silent. Scroll through your feed. It's a barrage of noise, endless updates, polished self-promotion, hashtags of hustle, and carefully curated humility. Everyone's talking. Everyone's building a personal brand, narrating their journey, and dropping value bombs. But the people who matter the most, they don't need to, because while others are busy proving their worth, they're busy building it. We've confused loudness with leadership, bragging with branding, transparency with power. But real power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't crave attention. It doesn't come wrapped in noise. It arrives, often unannounced, and it stays long after the noise has faded. And that's the paradox most people never understand. The more you reveal, the more you weaken your edge. Every explanation, every justification, every self-congratulatory post, it's a leak, a signal that you're trying to be seen. And those trying to be seen are already beneath those who choose to remain unseen. The sharpest minds, the most strategic players, the quiet powerhouses, they understand a deeper truth. Visibility can be a trap. Silence can be a weapon. And presence doesn't require noise. This isn't about being passive. It's about being precise. It's about knowing that in certain games, the strongest move is the one you don't make publicly. So ask yourself, what if not showing off is your greatest edge? What if silence isn't absence, but presence sharpened into strategy? What if the very thing you think is holding you back, your quiet, your restraint, your refusal to scream into the void, is what will take you further than noise ever could? Because in this world of constant communication, the rarest signal is no signal at all. And that's exactly why it's the most powerful one. Machiavelli knew power wasn't always about action. It was about perception. Centuries ago, long before the age of likes and live streams, Niccolo Machiavelli understood a principle we've nearly forgotten. The illusion of strength is often more effective than the reality of it. In his legendary work, The Prince, he wrote, "It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." In other words, power doesn't require perfection. It requires projection. Appear confident, appear wise, appear moral, but never feel the need to explain how the illusion is crafted. That's what makes today's world so strategically foolish. Public overexposure has become a norm. Leaders tweet before they think. CEOs publish manifestos to justify every business move. Influencers narrate every emotion, every failure, every ounce of doubt, as if radical transparency is a virtue in itself. We've been told that openness is authenticity, but too often, it's just a roadmap for how to be attacked. Every time you explain yourself, you lose a little bit of leverage. Every time you share a decision's backstory, you surrender some mystery. And power without mystery is just noise with a title. Look at the great tacticians. Sun Tzu warned, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." Silence, precision, control. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher, taught restraint through stoicism, how to endure, how to act without the need for praise or validation. These weren't just ethical ideas. They were tactical ones, because true strength, true influence, comes not from being seen, but from being felt quietly. When you understand perception, you stop playing for applause. You begin playing for effect. And in doing so, you inherit an older kind of power, one that moves invisibly, one that doesn't need to be shared, explained, or proven, one that wins, while others are still shouting for attention. Somewhere along the way, we started believing that the more we reveal, the more powerful we become. That influence is earned through endless talking, constant sharing, and relentless visibility. But the truth is far colder and far sharper. The more you expose, the more predictable you become. The more predictable you are, the less dangerous you appear. And in the game of power, being harmless is being irrelevant. 1. The meeting room fool. He means well. He thinks clarity is leadership. So he talks, and talks, and talks. He explains every angle of every idea. He answers questions that were never asked. He overcompensates for a lack of certainty with a flood of words. What he doesn't realize is this. Every word is a leak. Every extra sentence gives away position, intention, or weakness. The room doesn't see him as thorough. They see him as desperate. And power, real power, doesn't explain itself. It lets people guess. Because when people don't know what you're thinking, they assume you're thinking something powerful. But when you say everything, they know exactly how to undermine it. Power slips with every word he speaks. 2. The social media flexor. He's built a brand. Every win is broadcast. Every achievement is framed. He's always online, always adding value, always reminding you of his progress. He believes visibility equals legacy. But what he's actually doing is making himself smaller with every post. The more you show, the more you're consumed. The more people know about your moves, the more they feel they own your story. And what people think they own, they no longer respect. Mystique is replaced by expectation. Strategy is replaced by performance. You become a product, not a person. But the more you show, the more people feel they own you. 3. The over-explainer boss. He wants to be liked. So he justifies every decision to his team, trying to prove he's fair, smart, transparent. But in his effort to be understood, he loses control. Because when people understand the gears behind every choice, they start questioning the machine. They mistake openness for permission. This kind of boss earns sympathy, but not respect. His authority becomes diluted, his words overfamiliar. Why? Because mystery commands attention. Explanation breeds indifference. Respect isn't given to clarity, it's given to mystery. In every setting, meetings, platforms, leadership, modern behavior is addicted to exposure. But exposure is erosion. Every detail you share can and will be used against you. The more you show, the easier you are to defeat. The more you explain, the less you're feared. And without fear, there is no power. There are 3 kinds of silence that signal power. Not all silence is created equal. There's the silence of hesitation, and then there's the silence of calculation. The former is born from insecurity. The latter is born from mastery. The world often fails to tell the difference. But power players don't care to explain it. They just use it. Here are the 3 forms of strategic silence, each a different form of influence, each designed not to be noticed until it's too late. 1. The silent operator. He doesn't forecast. He doesn't preview. He doesn't build in public. He builds in silence. And when he speaks, it's already done. This is the kind of silence that unnerves people because it doesn't give warning. The silent operator keeps his cards so close, the table forgets he's even playing. But when he lays them down, the game ends. Swiftly, decisively. Think Apple under Steve Jobs. There were no leaks, no product demos in development. Just one event, one stage, one mic drop, silence, then dominance. Why did it work? Because mystery builds tension. Tension builds anticipation. And anticipation gives power to the one who controls the reveal. Machiavelli wrote it best. Never reveal the whole purpose of your plan. Because once the full map is public, the enemy can plot their route around you. The silent operator's strength is execution without narration. He doesn't explain. He delivers. He doesn't announce. He arrives. And the world respects what it doesn't expect. 2. The unreactive mind. Silence isn't always about what you say. Sometimes it's about what you don't say. The unreactive mind doesn't argue with criticism, doesn't defend against gossip, doesn't explain every decision to everyone who demands one. This person operates like a fortress. The louder the world gets, the quieter they become. Why? Because reaction is the currency of the insecure, and attention is the leverage of the powerful. Look at Warren Buffett. When headlines twist his words or analysts predict his fall, he says nothing. No angry tweets. No late-night interviews. He lets them talk. He lets them miscalculate. And then, when the smoke clears, he's still standing, portfolio intact, reputation untouched. This silence isn't passivity. It's precision. Every reaction you offer becomes data for someone else's weapon. The more you react, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more you bleed. The unreactive mind understands this. They don't play defense with words. They play offense with results. Their motto is simple. Let them burn themselves out trying to light me on fire. 3. The humble killer. This one walks in quietly, listens more than they speak. They don't perform power. They project it quietly, surgically, and with ruthless elegance. The humble killer is the negotiator who wins deals without raising their voice. the strategist who wins battles no one even knew were happening, the leader who doesn't compete for attention because attention competes for them. They're allergic to applause. They dismiss credit. They let others speak louder and then take the results home in silence. You won't find them celebrating online. They win 90% of the time and never post it on LinkedIn. Because the moment you start broadcasting victories, you invite opponents. And when you let others believe you're just quiet, you gain the most underrated edge in any game, being underestimated. This is the assassin mindset, not violent but surgical, not loud but lethal. The loudest voice enters the room, but the quietest mind runs it. The humble killer doesn't just play the game. They design it, they rig it, and they exit with a smile while others are still arguing about the rules. Each of these silences has its place. The silent operator owns the stage without needing an invitation. The unreactive mind turns provocation into power by refusing to flinch. And the humble killer rewrites the definition of success by never demanding credit. In a world addicted to noise, these people build dynasties without ever raising their voice. Because the ultimate flex is saying nothing at all. Silence is a weapon, but most people mistake it for absence. We live in a world that worships noise, where people rush to fill every pause, explain every detail, and respond to every challenge. But what they fail to see is that silence, deliberate, strategic silence, isn't a void. It's gravity. It pulls attention. It creates tension. It forces others to lean in, to guess, to wonder. And that wondering, that uncertainty, that's where your psychological edge begins. Silence builds mystery. It turns you into a question mark in a world of predictable periods. When people don't know your full story, they begin to project greatness. They fill the gaps with assumptions, often elevating you in the process. Because mystery activates imagination, and imagination, unchecked, tends to inflate. The less they know, the more they fear what you might be capable of. Your silence becomes a canvas on which they paint your strength, your discipline, your control. Silence also gives you narrative control. In the absence of information, people construct their own version of your motives, your thoughts, your plans. And more often than not, if you've carried yourself with even a hint of presence, they assume something powerful. They assign competence. They attribute strategy. They brace for outcomes. And that's the irony. By saying nothing, you say more than words ever could. You become a symbol instead of a story, a myth instead of a message. But the deepest layer is mental dominance. Silence unsettles people. It throws them off rhythm. Your refusal to react forces them into their own head. They second-guess themselves. They question their standing. They wonder what you're holding back. This mental pressure bends the environment in your favor. You gain the upper hand not by force, but by restraint. Power isn't presence, it's weight. And silence adds weight. A few well-placed silences in a room full of performers can change the atmosphere entirely. The loudest voice may capture the moment, but the quietest presence shapes the outcome. In chess, the most dangerous piece isn't the one moving constantly. It's the one standing still, perfectly positioned, forcing the other side to play around it. The truly powerful don't rush to fill the space. They're the space, and everyone else adjusts accordingly. Modern culture rewards visibility, but punishes vulnerability. We live in a hyper-connected world that glorifies exposure. Social media tells you to share everything, your wins, your setbacks, your feelings, your failures. We're taught that constant updates are a sign of confidence, that radical openness makes you authentic. But what no one tells you is that oversharing is self-sabotage. Every time you expose a detail, you hand someone a tool they can use against you. You give up control over your narrative. You lose leverage voluntarily. Authenticity has become a demand, not a virtue. People expect to know your next move, your private doubts, your full roadmap. But the more they know, the less they fear. The more you reveal, the less they respect. It's a paradox of perception. Clarity comforts, but it also diminishes. Familiarity breeds indifference. Leaders especially fall into this trap. In the name of openness, they over-explain decisions, share internal struggles, and offer full transparency about their strategy. But leadership is not about being liked. It's about being followed. And people don't follow what they fully understand. They follow what they believe is greater than themselves. The mystique is the magnet. Look closely at power structures. Transparency is never demanded from the powerful. It is always demanded from the vulnerable. Why? Because information makes you predictable. Predictability makes you manageable. And once you're manageable, you're no longer a threat. That's why the powerful speak in abstractions and deliver in specifics. After the deal is done, the rest talk too much before they've done anything at all. We've created a culture where the brave are those who speak constantly, cry on camera, and perform their pain for applause. But in truth, bravery is knowing when to stay silent, when to protect your vision, when to let the work, not the words, announce your arrival. Because once you give the world all of you, the world owns you. And ownership kills influence. In a world of over-communication, your silence will feel like thunder. At work, resist the urge to be the first to speak in meetings. Observe the room. Let others show their hand. Then speak with precision, not volume. When asked about your progress, deliver the outcome, not the process. Let results speak for themselves. And if someone challenges you, don't over-justify. Say less. Mean more. In leadership, cut your speaking time in half. Create space so others lean in. Don't praise constantly. Make your compliments rare, intentional, and valuable. And don't explain every why. People follow those they trust, not those who over-explain. In negotiation, after you state your offer, stop talking. The silence will pressure the other side far more than words. Most people fear the void. Let them fill it and reveal more than they intended. In relationships, you don't always need to verbalize your feelings. Let presence replace performance. Hold some of your dreams close. Share them only with those who have earned that trust. Your goals are royal property. Guard them accordingly. In every part of life, silence used wisely is not passive. It's active strategy. It's not the absence of power. It is the power. And in a world obsessed with noise, a calm, quiet presence will always cut deeper than the loudest voice in the room. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, the invisible ones win. We've built a culture around visibility, where value is measured in views. Confidence is mistaken for performance, and the loudest voice in a room is assumed to be the most important. But real influence doesn't need a spotlight. It moves in silence. It works in shadows. It doesn't seek applause because it already owns the outcome. The king doesn't announce he's king. He just sits. His presence is enough. His silence does more than speeches ever could. Why? Because power, like heat, becomes weaker the more you can feel it. Power is like heat. The more you feel it, the more it's wasting. True dominance doesn't reveal itself. It holds itself. It resists the temptation to be seen because it understands something deeper. Once you show your full hand, the game ends, and not always in your favor. Here's the irony. The moment you try to prove yourself, you expose yourself. You expose your hunger. You need to be validated. And that need becomes your leash. It turns you from the hunter to the hunted, from the ruler to the performer. So remember this. The smartest people never show off, because the moment you do, you've already lost.